from our experience, what you're going to find is a lot of business owners want money right now. Like they are urgently needing money. Okay, so keep this in mind. When you're talking to customers about the time frame to build business credit, it's very important that you know what that time frame is because everybody feels urgently that they need to have money immediately. So business credit building really is the fastest way for a lot of customers to get money. Now remember, the finance suite combines business financing and business credit building. So if they qualify for immediate financing, then in a lot of cases they can get that first while they're building their business credit. But for somebody that can't qualify for business financing, business credit, hands down, without a doubt, is the fastest way for them to get money. So there's no reason to embellish what's possible. You know, one of the problems that we see is sometimes customers come in with the wrong expectation. They think they're going to get a $50,000 credit line in a week, which isn't practical. As long as you set up the right expectation with your customers, they're going to be very happy with the real results they're going to get. But it's essential that you tell them the real results they can expect and that they come in with the right expectations so we can help them meet or exceed those expectations and so they continue to be a happy customer. So to get their credibility set up, the kind of initial step in business credit building takes about a week. Now, reasonably, this could be done in a day. It could be done within an hour, depending on if the business is a startup or not. So, for example, if the business is brand new, they might not have a business address. They might not have a business phone number, website, email address. Those things might take some time to get set up. If you're dealing with somebody that has a more established business, well, then they probably already have a website, an email address, and a phone number and those things. So they're going to fly through the initial credibility step much faster. So depending on how new a business is in its infancy and how many of those things that they might already have set up is going to determine the time frame, but usually that could be done within an hour to a week depending on how established that company already is. Okay, so the next thing to know there is it might take longer if they drag their feet. So if they need to get a business phone number and they get busy in life and they don't do anything to get their business phone number for a week, then it could take longer than a week for them to set up their credibility. It's really based on how established they are, one, and two, how quickly they take the steps to go through step one and make sure that that business is set up credibly. Now, within about a week, they can then start getting approved for real credit. So it happens very quickly. Even as a startup, they can come in and start getting approved for vendor credit right away. Now, when we talk about vendor credit, we're talking about accounts that have terms like net 30, which means if you put $1,000 on the account, then you have 30 days to pay that $1,000 back in full. It's not a revolving account like a credit card where you might put $1,000 on a credit card and then you get a bill with a minimum payment of 25 bucks. With vendor credit, they need to pay that balance off within that set term, such as net 30, giving them 30 days. And it takes about 60 to 90 days after they start getting approved for these kind of accounts for those accounts to report. Now, some of these accounts are places like Quill and Uline that sell shipping and office supplies, stuff that any business owner might actually want and need. Now, you might not go to Quill to get office supplies normally, but in this case, it makes sense to do so because not only are you getting the supplies that you're going to probably need anyways, but you're also building your business credit profile and score. And once you get that credit, use that credit and pay the bill. It takes about 60 to 90 days for those accounts to report. It's just important that your customers know they need to spend $50 or more at that actual vendor for that vendor to take that account and report it to the actual business credit reporting agencies. And a lot of these initial vendors come with $500 to $2,500 initial approvals. This is big. You're going to be dealing with a lot of people that have consumer credit issues where they haven't got a $2,000, $3,000 credit card maybe ever or in many years. But in business credit building, they're going to start getting $500 to $2,500 limits through vendors immediately right away the minute that they get into that step and start actually applying. And again, there's not a lot of startup vendors out there. I found that about 97% of vendors that do offer services do not report to the business credit reporting agencies. This is why most people just don't have business credit. It's because they don't know where to go to initially get approved with sources that will help them get approved even if they don't have any credit established, even if they're a newer business, and that also report that credit to the business credit reporting agencies. That's a very hard combination to find. Vendors that report to the business credit reporting agencies and will give just about anybody credit, even if they have none established. So there's not a lot of these type of vendors out there. So in the initial vendor building and the initial vendor section of the finance suite, it's important to know that there are not hundreds of sources, because there's not even hundreds of sources out there in the country that will help anybody get vendor credit, but we give them a large array of sources that will help them, no matter what their situation is, get approved even if they have no credit already established. So when 5 of these accounts are actually reporting, when they get approved for 5 accounts, they spend $50 or more, they pay the bill, then those report within 30 to 60 days. Okay, the next step is for them to start getting store credit accounts. And again, as I said, the 60 to 90 day time frame really comes down to how long it takes the account to report. If they come in today, they get approved for 5 accounts, they use the credit, they pay the bill tomorrow, then it's going to take those vendors about 60 days on average to report that credit. Now, we find a lot of people do it within 30 days. On average, it's about 60 days. So we say 60 to 90 days because we want to under-promise and over-deliver, but reasonably it takes about 60 days after they pay those bills for those accounts to actually get reported. And then with store credit, they start getting approved for about $1,000 to $4,000 limits, much higher than they're probably used to in the consumer world. So about 60 days into this process, they're getting $1,000 to $4,000 limit store credit cards, except for some places. Places like Dell are notorious for giving them credit as high as $10,000 within a 60-day or 90-day time frame. So they start getting high limit credit accounts from stores very quickly. And again, it takes about 60 to 90 days for those accounts to report. When they have 10 total accounts, including vendor, including store accounts, then they can start getting cash credit cards. Now, these are like Visa cards, MasterCards they can use anywhere. This is the kind of credit people really want to have. So some people will ask you, how long does it take to build my business credit? Well, that's kind of a funny question. If you think about it, how long did it take you to build your consumer credit? Really, it's a never-ending process. But what you want to tell them is you're going to start getting credit right away. You're going to get store credit within about 60 days with high limits, and you're going to start to get Visa, MasterCard, cash type credit within about 120 days or about 4 months from starting the process. And those are usually Visa or MasterCards. Discover cards right at this point in time doesn't offer credit without a personal guarantee, and American Express is possible, but they have to have very good established business credit or good time in business to get Amex, so that'll kind of come down the road. Most of the cash credit they're going to get is Visa, MasterCard, and again, these accounts are available in the final step of the finance suite. So it's very practical for someone to obtain about 5 to 10,000 in initial vendor credit within the first 60 days. So their initial approvals they can really get within the first couple weeks might be $5,000 to $10,000 that take about, again, a month or two to report. Then when they start getting store credit, it's very practical for them to get $10,000 to $50,000 in store credit as soon as those vendor credits are reported. Now remember, it's kind of like consumer credit, right? There's no actual limit to the amount of credit that you can actually obtain. Okay, it just matters to how much credit you actually apply for. So if you're applying for a lot of credit, you're going to get approved for a lot of credit. So how much somebody can get in store cash credit really depends on how much they apply for, but about 10 to 50,000 is what they can expect. They can also expect to get about 20 to 50,000 in cash credit within that 4 to 6 month time period. Again, it depends on how much they're actually applying for, but we've got as a lot of these type of sources available for them, usually anywhere between 2 to 10 of these type of cash credit sources or more. Okay, they kind of rotate in of who reports and who doesn't report, and usually they're getting $5,000 to $10,000 limits on each account. So it's very practical to get about 20 to 50,000 in cash credit within about 120 to about 120 days. Now you'll see sometimes advertised that there is a $50,000 guarantee in the finance suite. So let me tell you a little bit more about that, because this is very important. Yes, we do offer a guarantee that if the customer doesn't get $50,000 in 12 months, we'll work with them until they do. We can't obviously offer any kind of money back guarantee because we're not taking money from the customer. You are. We're servicing the customer, so we give a service guarantee that says, look, you're going to get 50 grand in 12 months or we'll work with you until they do. Now, the guarantee is only in place because what happens is some people get busy in life. They say, okay, I want to build my business credit. They get started, then they stop. Then they come back 3 months, 6 months, 7 months later and say, I started this process. I never did anything with it. Now I want to restart it. We're not going to tell that person, hey, too bad, man. You waited 7 months. Your time is gone. What we're going to do is say, okay, great. We're glad you're back. We're glad you're wanting to get forward on this. Let's start you over, start your coaching over, and get you in. So that's what the guarantee's there. Really, the guarantee's there for some people that fall out and then they come back and they want to get going again. We don't want to tell them their time has passed. We want to start the process over to give them ample time. So if they don't get 50,000 in 12 months, the only reason that this would happen is because they just didn't do anything. It's the only reason somebody won't get 50,000 is that they didn't take the steps to actually apply. And in that situation where they come back and say, now I'm ready to take those steps, then we're going to help them restart that process over so they can get their financing. But you need to keep in mind, this isn't something you should promote. You don't want to promote the guarantee on your website. You don't want to promote the guarantee in your marketing materials at all, because what happens is, what we found is that when you advertise the guarantee, then people come in with the wrong expectations. They start thinking that they're going to get a $50,000 credit line in a week, no matter what you tell them. People hear what they want to hear. So if you're guaranteeing them $50,000, you have to be very careful, because what happens is, in a lot of cases, they come into us and go, okay, where's my $50,000 credit line? And we're like, wait a minute, there's a process involved for you to start getting that, and it won't usually be one credit line for 50 grand. It'll be 3, 4, 5 credit cards for 50 grand. When you start talking about this guarantee, it confuses a lot of people. It creates more problems than it solves. So in some of our sales tactics, like you'll hear one of our salespeople, Pete, on our end, kind of teach you how he sells. He does mention the guarantee, but when you talk about the guarantee, it has to be ridiculously responsible. First, do not promote it. Don't put it on your website. Don't put it on your marketing material. It creates the wrong perception. And if you do mention this, even as a closing tool to customers, they need to know everything I've told you in this video. They need to know, here's what you can expect. And when we talk about 50,000, it's not a $50,000 credit card. It's 50,000 in vendor, store, and cash credit combined. So again, in order for them to even get to cash credit, they probably have to have 20, 30, 40,000 in vendor or store credit anyways established. So your customers need to know this information in this video and need to not think they're going to come in and get one credit line for 50 grand, because it's not going to happen. So be very careful here, because again, in our experience, you're going to cause more harm by good than promoting the guarantee, unless you really clarify what we talked about in this video of the exact time frames they can expect to build business credit. So make sure that you get this information to your customers. They need to know what's possible with business credit. You don't want to embellish this, because then they come in with the wrong expectations and it becomes a real problem. Instead, give them a reasonable idea of what to expect in time frames and building business credit. And this is the key to success for having happy customers and happy clients of the Business Finance Suite.